Carr, and I work in the Visiting Scholar Department here at Reasons to Believe. The Visiting Scholar Department is an amazing opportunity for us to collaborate with visiting scholars from around the world. This week, we're joined with Dr. Kenny Rhodes, and today we're going to learn a little bit more about him. Kenny, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
And while I'm not from around the world, but just hop, skip, and the jump up Highway 99 from here, actually more like a 5-hour drive. But I'm a California boy, although my family's from West Virginia.
Okay.
A lot of hillbilly running through my blood. You know, the thing that I like to talk about most is my family and my wife, Tammy, the former Tammy Russell of Manteca, California, or I should say Lathrop, a small side city. We have been married for 23 years, maybe. We may be married 24, but I think it might be 23. It was 1994 when we got married.
Got it.
So, and I can't do math in my head. I'm just not like Hugh or David in the sense of being able to do math in my head like that. But my wife, Tammy, we've been married, like I said, for that long. We have 3 beautiful children. My oldest is Tajiana Elizabeth. She's 21. Then there's Michaela Danielle, who is 18, soon to turn 19 at the end of this year. And then my son, Kenneth III, who goes by Kent, and he is 17. And they're all involved in ministry in some way. My oldest, Tajiana, is involved in missionary work and is studying at Liberty University to be a counselor and psychologist. My son loves gaming and computers, and my middle daughter, Michaela, she loves special effects, makeup and stuff, and she's my Star Wars freak in the house. Now, I love Star Wars, but even my YouTube name is Kylo Ken. But my daughter, she's the Star Wars freak, and we came down and they actually went over to Disneyland while Dad was here working. And then, of course, my wife, she works part-time for a lawyer and part-time for Shelter Cove Community Church there in Modesto. And she just took over the women's ministry up there. And so I'm super proud of her, and she's gone into official professional ministry. I was the pastor for many years, and so she's involved with that. And God has just blessed me with a wonderful family, very supportive wife, very beautiful wife, beautiful children, and God has just smiled on me, given me my wife and my children, and what a great support they are to me.
Good. So you have a PhD, which probably means you are an excellent student. So tell me just...
No, not at all. Not at all. I have a PhD in theology, and I have a Doctor of Religious Education as well.
So you really love school.
I love school, but let me preface that with a big but. In high school, I was a horrible student. Now, I got by because I had a fairly good memory, and if the teacher covered it in class, I was okay. If it was on a test that required reading, not okay. Matter of fact, I had not ever in my life read a book until I graduated high school, until God had actually called me to ministry. Then I started reading, and it was a real struggle for me to try to really have some good reading comprehension. And it was a huge struggle for many years, but I finally got through it, and God has just touched that area of my life. I gave it to Him, and I said, there's not much there, Lord, so use what you can. And so He's done that. So I always encourage people, if you were a horrible student in high school, just if you're passionate about it and you want to learn, I believe anybody can learn if they just get down to it. And it takes hard work, but still. So it's a funny thing. If you talk to my mom about it, it's funny because I never read a book in high school and struggled. I almost flunked a couple grades. Barely drifted through high school. If it weren't for music, I would have never got through high school because it was so horrible. It was the worst time of my life. I hated high school.
Well, I'm glad that you enjoy learning.
Yeah.
And obviously you enjoy books now. You have also
Right.
written a book.
Right.
Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that.
Well, my book here called The One Who Is comes from the Greek translation of the Old Testament called the Septuagint, which in Exodus chapter 3, verse 14, God tells Moses, I am that I am. The Greek is ego emi o on, I am the one who is, or I am the existing one. And so this is just all about God and his attributes. I took his existence, of course. I took the word logos, which functioned in theoretical thought in the sense of what is it, how do we know it, and how do we communicate it? So the idea of ontology, epistemology, and hermeneutics. And so I took that from a biblical, theological, and philosophical point of view, leaned very heavily on St. Thomas Aquinas, and was done. I prayed and fasted before I did it, and before I wrote, in middle of writing, and I couldn't believe it. About 3 years later, after I had set it down for a while, came back, set it down for a while, 3 years later, I've got an 80,000 word book with almost 500 footnotes of rabbit chasing, which I love to do. But yeah, and then the greatest honor for me was to have both Ken Samples of RTB to endorse it, and then my hero in the faith, Dr. Norm Geisler, also endorsed it, and he actually called it, get this, I don't know if he was just having a bad day or what, but he said this is the best handbook I have seen on the existence and nature of the triune God. So what a shot in the arm, and what a great testimony of just hard work.
Yeah.
That's all it is. I'm not brilliant. I just work hard.
Yeah.
And have given that all to the Lord.
So besides being passionate about learning and books, I also hear you're pretty good at music. When did that start? You're a pretty amazing drummer here.
Well, I started music quite young as well, and it was a very important part of my life. I actually gave it up for the Lord back in the day, but I've done a couple what they call jazz fusion albums, did a rock album in the late 80s, and gave that up for a little bit, just thinking that I needed to, and it was probably good that I did it. I've come back to music, and I've become a better drummer than I ever was before by God's grace. And I play now in a synth pop 80s cover band. I play in a jazz fusion instrumental band now, and those were some of the things I did in the early 90s, studied through the late 90s and 2000s, and then picked up drumming just a few years ago and worked myself back in the shape, and so here I am. And I'm really hoping to use both music and apologetics, and go in, do drum solos, play along to MP3s and things like that. Just show off the drum chops. I better watch out. I might fall over here. It's hot, and it's been a long day. But anyway, I'm just hoping to give all of it to God for his glory, using my time and talents for him. So thank you for asking about the music.
Yes, well, music is very important to me. I've been involved in it for many years, so I love when people are involved. But thank you so much for sharing about yourself. Thank you for being here as a visiting scholar. I know it's been a pleasure having you, and I can't wait for you to come back.
Thank you so much. I'll be here in January.
Yes. Thank you.